Self-help. Everyone wants to be the best version of themselves. Everyone wants to listen to all the top self-help gurus. Jay Shetty, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, and the list goes on. And I think we all want to be the best version of self, but it really boils down to just the most simple aspect of life. And I want to really get into that today. So let's get into it. So becoming the best version of self. I think a lot of people are making this out to be it's something that's much more difficult than it really is. It is difficult, but it's not difficult. One of the major pillars in self-help and in self-improvement and becoming the best version of self is really just humbling yourself, really. Humbling yourself. And what humbling yourself, what that entails, there's so many different aspects in that. A lot of people just don't really focus on humbling yourself, because if you can humble yourself and truly master that, that's more than half of the equation of being the best version of yourself. Because people don't understand, we always get in our own way of progress. We, as human beings, are our own worst enemies. If we would just get out of our way, we can do that by humbling ourselves. So the first thing is really, by humbling yourself, putting your pride aside. Ego. Put the ego aside. Because if you can put your ego aside, what that does is that lowers your defenses. So now when someone says something to you, you're not offended. Because that's, again, half of the time when it comes to self-improvement and bettering oneself, it's normally the way you respond to someone else. So that's half the equation. That's half the conversation, is just humbling yourself and getting rid of your ego. If someone says something to you that you don't like, typically that's the truth, because the truth always resonates with you. And the truth has a way of striking down to your core and piercing into you, and it bothers you because it's true. If someone walks up to you and someone says, hey, your brother is a robber and they're a rapist, and your family is such and such, and it's not true, it's not going to bother you. You're going to look at them like they're crazy, and you're going to walk off and say, okay, this guy's nuts. But if someone says something about your family or something about you that rings true, typically you're going to be very sensitive to it, and you're going to respond in a way that's going to be very defensive. See, it's not always what people say, it's how they say it. That makes a lot of sense. But again, if you have no pride, if you have no ego, it doesn't matter what someone says to you and how they say it. You're in control of how you respond to it. So for instance, if someone walks up to you and someone calls you a name that you don't like, 50% of the conversation or the equation is you responding back to them. And if you don't have this ego, this inflated sense of self that says, how dare you call me this? How dare you disrespect me? Well, then it's just going to be a regular conversation. You're going to say, hey, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. What's wrong? What's going on? Is there something I can help you with? See, you're not going to be offended. Most people are always on the defense, and then now, when they're on the defense, they tend to lash back at the other person. The other person, of course, is just as, prideful and has just as big as ego as anyone else. So then you're going back and forth with each other. If you just put your pride down, put your pride aside, and say, hey, maybe there's a good message in what this person's trying to tell me. Maybe they're not saying it the right way, but maybe if I can just sit down, hear what they're saying, and respond without being emotional, respond without being defensive, maybe we can get somewhere. That's half the battle. Just dismantling this huge ego that we have, and this prideful situation where we feel like we can't be disrespected, we can't be talked to this way. Because I'm going to give you a perfect example of how you can turn the other cheek and how you can swallow your pride and not say anything. When you're at work and when you have a superior, be it a director, manager, or a regional manager, whatever it may be, if they say something to you that you typically don't like, 9 times out of 10, most people are going to bite their tongue, they're going to smile, and they're not going to say anything. Because the reason why is because they know they can't say anything. They can, but if they do, there's a chance that they can lose their job or get demoted, or they're going to make your life more difficult on that job. So why not apply that same logic to, let's say, outside the workplace, to someone who you are, let's say, maybe having a conversation with? Why not apply it then? And why not bite your tongue and then respond back in a way that's not defensive? I had a conversation with somebody recently. I'm not going to mention what their name is, but this person was so hell-bent on getting across their point. They said it 6 times. They mentioned the point 6 times. Now, look, I know a lot of people, to a lot of people, most people wouldn't do that. And this is a very extreme example. But there are some people out there who always want to voice their opinion. They want to be heard. And if you don't respond in a way that lines up with the way they think, they're going to keep touching that same point over and over and over. That's because, again, people have this ego. People have to impose their views on you. If you don't think like this person, that means that now they have an issue with you. Right? And that's another huge issue that people have, is that when someone has an opinion that differs from someone else, a lot of the times people don't like that. If you say, hey, I'm a Republican, and the other person says, well, I'm a Democrat, they don't like that. They're already now, their defenses are up. They're already, they're already looking to kind of sell you their idea as to why being a Democrat or Republican is better than whatever. Why can't people just let things be and let people just be who they are? Why does it have to be this constant tug of war between convincing people, hey, you have to do it my way. My way's better than yours. And if you don't do it my way, then you're against me. If you're not for me, you're against me. That is the mentality of most people. It's so sad. And all that boils down to is pride and ego. Because again, if you have no pride, if you have no ego, why would it matter if someone agrees with you or is on your side? It doesn't matter either way, unless you're in a war. But we're not in a war. We're just having a conversation. But that's the problem with most people. And this thing just goes along to relationships, as far as male and female, friendships. I mean, you name it. People just can't let it go. They have to impose their will on other people. And it's just so sad that people have to do this. Because it really gets you nowhere. It really gets you nowhere. If you're going to be the best version of yourself, you need to accept people for who they are, meet them where they're at, and stop trying to impose your will on people. And if people have a different point of view, which they should and they will, just respect it. And if you don't agree with it, say, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I respect you. And move on. And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, you're not going to argue with this person. You're not going to have these endless disagreements that lead to nowhere. Well, and again, that's just my little piece of advice that I have. I've been reading a lot of books on becoming the best version of self. I don't believe in self-help because it's not self-help, it's a book. The book is helping you. It's not self-help, comes from self. But there's some good books out there that teach you about these things, and I can put these in the link below if you'd like to check them out. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please subscribe, please share, drop a comment. Thanks for listening.